there is this interest in quote-unquote body language, and many times you'll hear people talk about body language, but then they immediately shift to talking about verbal content, or they may make some vague reference to it in terms of presence, etc. And there's a lot of,
or there's the
right. So part of what we see our goal is, and for me it's a real missionary zeal sometimes, is to debunk the body language mythology. So people will ask me, what does this mean? Or they'll tell me what this means, and then I'll explain that, well, perhaps the person is cold, or covering a stain on their shirt, or that, even though, yes, it may be pulling back in some sense, maybe that's where the place they go to in order to gather their thoughts or to be, responsive to what you are saying. So that you cannot make these kind of blanket kind of associations. So that's another part of our agenda, but that's a real uphill battle. It's a real, because while you do have serious political commentators now making forays into this world of nonverbal communication, the place where it gets more hype is in, style section material where they're looking for the sound bite to, show you that so-and-so's grimace really meant whatever. And so we're constantly basically negotiating those two kind of pop culture interest in body language versus really some trying to get people to understand something about the essence of nonverbal communication.
The other thing that I'll say about the quote-unquote body language experts who appear on some channels, Fox News, is that they're often serving another agenda, and this is something that we really struggle with, because it would be very easy for us to play or cater to one side of the political spectrum or the other, and including our own feelings about politics and issues and so on. Oh God, and we really struggle, and that's another reason why we do this together. Is that we have another person to check our biases with. And even though we both tend towards the same side of the political spectrum, and you can take a guess which that is, but that doesn't mean that that's what we're presenting. We're not trying to make a case for one side or the other. We're really trying to help people see why they feel the way that they do about particular candidates.
Right. Why someone's physical presence resonates with somebody, and identifying that. So what for one person is rigid, for another person is firm. And the associations of those things have then huge ramifications for why they feel the way they do.
To me, it wasn't spoke like. Which is what you're saying. It's like, which was more to me all trying to reach out and embrace, as opposed to I'm telling you something.
Right.
That I just felt, first when you just had him from here to here, there was this just kind of uncontrolled nervous energy that his hands kept flying while his head was kind of doing like this the whole time, and I started feeling nervous. But then when it opened up and you could see his whole body, from about here down, he was like totally relaxed, and I thought, this is really interesting, it's all happening up here. So once I saw the bottom, I got calmer, and then I sort of got into the nervous energy being kind of a positive kinetic energy once I could see the whole thing. But without the bottom, I was just, I think I need a Valium.
They're brilliant examples because they suit the content. At very end moment where you want to cry, because she's Sonia can talk about the sitting shape, but because she noticed that more than I did, but that ending moment, she's very connected, and she's talking about what she's accomplished, and she finally says basically, and I did it. Very, very stable state. She has no other place to go in this moment. It's there.
What we would do here, if we were comparing these two people, we would collect the information from David Brooks. We'd collect the information, the language that you use, the images that you come up with, the ways that you're relating to her, and we would put these next to each other, and we would say, okay, where's the story here? Where's the dialogue in terms of what's important about this?
What are they doing? Why are they doing it? How does it support them? I mean, we're assuming that already the context is they've been asked here because somehow they're effective, right? So what is it that's making them effective? And the sense of vertical is so important in our sense of self in every way, shape, and form. The vertical dimension is affined or associated with self, because we experience our weight via gravity's pull, right? And via the fact that we've come to this vertical stance. So a lot of our sense of self comes from our experience of our form in gravity. So this vertical dimension is associated with a sense of assertion of self. In Laban terms, in terms of the effort qualities, that's what then gives us access to our weight effort. Whether that be the strong weight effort of pressure and force, or whether it be the rarefied, resonant rebound away from that, the resilient rebound away from that into the light, delicate touch of gentle delicacy, refined, gentle delicacy. So that gives us that whole association with how we assert ourselves in the world. This connects to the fact that often the condensing efforts are often perceived as being in some way the more masculine and patriarchal, and that's the ones that are getting you around in the world, but we also know the opposite is true. That, you know, we have the Southern belle that manages to get her way with that delicate touch, right, and manipulate lots of things around her with a sense of delicacy. So there is just as much power and empowerment in the use of lightweight effort, or there can be, potentially, as there is with strong weight effort. Earlier, when Karen was saying to have people lift their hand, we also noticed that when we changed that, we were disaffining and going upward with the strong characteristic, and how powerful disaffinity can be. That's why that becomes the signal of revolution, is because you are disaffining that going upward with that strong, condensing, powerful force. So, the drama, right, drama is often from disaffinity. So in this case, I'm talking about not only space, but effort, the effort qualities associated with the space.
So this is the micro-macro tension in terms of observation. When we see these quote-unquote body language people, is that a lot of times they're focusing on interpretation of the micro level. They really get stuck at, like, okay, this gesture meant this. This particular second, they blinked 3 times, that meant this, you know. Very, very micro. And, or, so completely macro, well, it's obvious that he's lying. You know, that kind of thing, you know.
Or he's nervous, just as a big, as a catch thing. He's nervous.
Right. So the micro-macro back and forth that happens naturally within Laban movement analysis, we think is incredibly valuable. And it's one of the messages we try to get across when people call us and ask us how we see what we see, or ask us to comment on particular things. We're always making the statement that we're not looking at just at the micro, we're not looking just at the macro, we are looking at how these things inform each other. Always going.